So I recently saw a VTuber by the name of Suris. Not sure if it's Suris or Suris or Sure is, but nonetheless, they talked about Bari Weiss's or backlash Bari Weiss is receiving for her anti-trans rhetoric. If you want to catch a better intro, watch the live stream. But let's jump right into what Suris had to say about this.
Wow. What a weird specific word to use here. What a weird, strange, specific phrase. I wonder if there's any particular ways in which that specific phrase has been used in the last, I don't know, few years in regards to trans people. You know, the word social contagion. I wonder if there's any specific scenarios in which that word has caused problems.
It's an intriguing channel. Let's see what they have to say.
Know a little bit about how she goes about her reporting methods by the time we're done. Before we get into that, though, it's going to be a bit of a dark one, so we're going to do some fan art, and we're going to try to get in a better headspace before we start. So, well, that is a dumpy ditto. So, apparently, Axo that has cream has decided to tell us all that Suris found out that the Dumpy the Ditto profile is owned by Axo. So there is the butt. There is Ditto's butt. Processing will begin shortly. The next one we have here is from Red Whooper. Started this out like 9 months ago and finally finished. Happy birthday, Suris. And obligatory War Words variant. Ha ha! You can fry. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the Discord. If you haven't already joined the Discord, the ! Discord command will bring you to the link where you can do that. That's the thing you can do. So, anyways, let's go ahead and talk about Weiss. So to poison the well here, person who is really, really cool and you should follow, Conyer, already has us started out pretty well. On February 9th, Bari Weiss pushed a story about a St. Louis Children's Hospital whistleblower that was debunked by dozens of patients and parents, and now she's pushing a story that is being debunked by the patient themselves. This isn't journalism, it's fear-mongering. Let's look at the types of things that she writes first. I thought I was saving trans kids. Now I'm blowing the whistle. Jamie Reed is a progressive. She is a queer woman married to a trans man, and she's devoted her career to the vulnerable, which is why she joined the Transgender Center at St. Louis Children's Hospital 4 years ago. But today, she's blowing the whistle. Almost 24 parents of children seen at the clinic, which opened in 2017, say their experiences sharply contradict the examples supplied by Jamie Reed, a case manager who left the WU Center after being employed there for more than 4 years. Reed outlined her concerns in an article published online February 9th. Her sworn affidavit, which included additional allegations, was released that day by Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, who was leading a state investigation. Weird that. So I wonder what type of stuff is being written by somebody who has such a wonderful track record here. Well, let's see here. I felt bullied. Mother of child treated at transgender center speaks out.
I think they talked about this on the Majority Report as well, but this story is just devastating. Listen to what Suris is about to read to you, and remember, and I'm sure Suris brings this up as well, but just remember as you're hearing this, that the kid gave a response. They felt compelled to give a response. And they say, yeah, this is either entirely a lie or taken out of context to make it look bad. And remind yourself that Bari Weiss can't have done this unintentionally. It takes work to cover up the truth that much. So here we go.
So, we could read the actual article here, or we can accept instead that we already know that the words that are being written by Bari, are not the greatest.
I'm going to read it. Got to hear what they're saying. When he was 14 years old, Caroline's son got a pharmaceutical implant. Part of it might just be part of it might be dead naming and such. I realize now as I'm reading this, I don't know if this really is a son or a daughter. And I don't trust Bari Weiss to say it correctly. Well, all right, here's the summary from what I recall. The mom in the article says that she felt pressured by the doctors to give her child treatments, and that her child has, after those treatments, all sorts of mental health problems, including depression and problems at school, etc., etc. The child has responded by saying they had those mental health problems unrelated to a sexual transition. The school declining performance in school is a result of those mental health problems, and in fact, those mental health problems have been helped by the transition, and the transition was overall a healthy thing for them. They also say they were not, the mom and child were not pressured by the hospital. There it is. All right, let's let Suris take it home.
So, why don't we look at the direct words from the person who was being written about the entire time? Maybe that would be better. That would actually be a little better than the words written here. If you want to read this particular article, by all means, you have the ability to. But let's go ahead and look over what...
Also, for the record, when I wanted to VTube, I was going to use that Pixel Jake that you often see as the logo for the channel, but I couldn't get the boobs to shake enough like Suris has here. Oh well, maybe I'll get better in the future.
Alex has said. This begins by saying, when... trying to make sure that I don't have a dead name in here. It's fine. We just read Alex's statement. I have reinstalled Twitter to respond to this story and make sure my voice is fully heard. I am Casey. My real name is Alex, but my mom decided it would be best to hide it for anonymity. But this is my story, not hers. And this is not the Free Press's story. About a week ago, my mom contacted Emily Yoff without my knowledge and told her what was supposed to be our story. She expressed her frustration with the transgender clinic at Washington University, many of which are false perceptions that my mom has about the doctors and the clinic. I learned of this article through my mom over the phone when she asked if it was okay that at the FP, the Free Press, published the article. I said that I wanted to read it first. When I read the draft, I was disgusted with what the reporter and my mom had made my experiences out to be. Upon interviewing Emily Yoff, I was told that I had no say in whether or not the article would be published. I asked if my consent was required to publish the article, and the reporter told me that's not how these things work. After she had edited the article and published it, I had not found out about this until 20 hours later, I was extremely frustrated.
So when you have MAGA folks, let's say you're taking the advice from the earlier stream, you're talking with MAGA folks about woke stuff, and you have MAGA folks busting out things like this, like the Matt Walsh bigotry. Point to this article. Point to this article that Bari Weiss was showing everybody. Say, hey, look at this, look at this. And ask them why they felt, and this response from Alex, and ask them why the authors felt the need to lie about it. Why did they feel they had to lie? Why did they feel they had to not include the trans person in the conversation? Why was that? You know the answer. They know the answer. Make them say it. They weren't interested in telling the truth. That's why. And hey, if they can find similar instances, but going the other way, by all means, let us know. I'd love to know if we're misinformed. Thing is, I don't think we are.
The article makes it out that my mother had no say in the implant of the Suprelin. This is completely false. My mother claims that she was pressured into saying yes by the doctors. A big issue that they point out is that the doctors quoted suicide statistics in transgender adolescents. I don't deny that these statistics were quoted, but also sustain that the doctors didn't say that I was at substantial risk of this. The article mentioned that my grades dropped from A's and B's to D's and F's in the semester. This is a completely exaggerated statement. My grades were on a steady decline since 2020 due to an unrelated mental health concern. Speaking of mental health, the article claims that my mental health issues can be attributed to the Suprelin implant. However, my personal experiences show that this is not the case. Since COVID-19, my mental health has been declining, and it was already an issue. Gee, I wonder if there was anything that actually could cause mental health decline in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic.
You know we're going to take a break occasionally to read those comments that they give me such a chuckle I get distracted. If the bosoms, says Mars Falcon, don't properly shake, not a proper avatar doth it make. Sun Tzu, The Art of Likes Galore. A learned man. We're gonna get a Pixel Jake with a well endowed set of squares.
Maybe there's a common thing that happened to a lot of us that we could relate to there. Also, Seaman Monkey Dog, thank you for the follow. I was in counseling with the Washington University Transgender Care Center, in which I was treated amazingly by my counselor. She was a friend to me and offered a great amount of support. This was taken away when my mom revoked consent for the Suprelin. After she revoked consent, my father and I, along with the university, attempting to set up a meeting with my mom. She did not attend this meeting, claiming that she was not contacted. Later, she admitted that she was. Currently, Alex is seeking out advice from a lawyer on how to go about proving that their side of things is how everything all went down. There is a lot of actual support in here from people, which is wonderful, but as Twitter's algorithms are what they are, I'm sure that what I'm not seeing is the people who are going to be assholes about this. The entire article here is very, very, very lengthy. But according to the person the article is written about, it's not actually true. So while, again, we could go over the article as it was written, if you want to read it, that's a thing that you can do on your own time. Right now, there seems to be an actual victim involved that actually needs to be reported on, using their actual words. Alex's mom said, "This isn't your story, it's mine. We don't need to publish your consent to publish this." Yes, they fucking do. So they're talking about legally, and legally, they might not need it, but, you know, journalistic integrity would dictate otherwise. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the comments that have been made on this, because I think
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to more of that pretty gal avatar shaking around. But never claimed to be a classy gentleman. But I just gotta get in there. So somebody the other day on a live stream, and folks, just know that your comments are on my mind often longer than they are talked about on stream. I just like to muse over this stuff. But somebody said they once looked at journalism as a kind of priesthood. Me too. Man. When I got into it, was leaving a sales job, wanted to clean my soul, for God's sake, and saw an opportunity for business in media, but also, you know, just did the thing I think maybe everybody who decides they're going to get into journalism does: marathoned a bunch of movies with journalists in them, and just started to see journalists as being, as the commenter said, a kind of priesthood. You swear to follow higher rules in order to do this job than are asked for everybody else just to live in society. I thought that was beautiful. And as someone who is not themselves particularly religious, amazed by the universe, yes, but not religious. There was an appeal there, and I can't tell you how sad it was to get into journalism and find that, at least at the local level, it was more akin to the actual priesthood, with, bad reporters being moved around, with the priests. Actually, want to talk about what it's really like. It's more like a working at a restaurant, a fast food chain, where the lowest amongst you are the most necessary for the work to get done, and they are treated like garbage. And the result being, it ends up functioning a lot like the actual priesthood, with the fate of the souls of those involved not being taken into consideration. To see a bad priest like this infuriates me. It makes me angrier than pretty much any other group we deal with, because any other group we deal with, at least, anywhere around the world. I was going to say at least America, but anywhere around the world, they are usually a symptom of this group, of the bad journalists, of people handing out bad information. In the United States, we can mostly thank Reagan for that, for removing the fairness doctrine. And great news, if we're successful in 2024, if we can get rid of the red in the House, the Senate, and make sure it stays out of the presidency, we can get a supermajority. We can reinstate things like the fairness doctrine. You can have Fox be unable to exist as it is currently set up. We could do that in just 1 year. Bari Weiss, done, no more career. Ben Shapiro, done, no more career. Who's that guy that's terrified of Sam Cedar? There's a lot, but who's the guy that's really terrified? Like, Sam Cedar sent him to the hospital because he had a panic attack over it. What was it? Steven Crowder. That's who. Done. Or at the very least, they can't dare call themselves news. We can put in rules that basically make it illegal to lie knowingly. Those rules wouldn't affect decent people. They would only affect people that are doing things like we see here, straight up lying to their audience. Let's let this person finish it out.
The first comment here shows exactly the type of person this article is being written for. I'm Gen Z, 23 years old. This social contagion has spread everywhere, and I'm one of the few people in my generation speaking out about it and writing about it. Wow. What a weird, specific word to use here. What a weird, strange, specific phrase. I wonder if there's any particular ways in which that specific phrase has been used in the last, few years in regards to trans people. The word social contagion. I wonder if there's any specific scenarios in which that word has caused problems. Transgender identity seems to especially be affecting autistic kids. The rate of autism within trans-identifying people is 7 to 8 times the usual rate. For a lot of kids who feel weird or left out, they think transitioning will solve their problems and give them a...
I don't know if Suris comments on this. Oh, that's too much. I don't know if Suris comments on this. But here's just something I want to point out. I don't know even if that figure they're quoting is accurately recalled. But let's just assume, for the sake of the conversation, it is. If somebody is seeing a doctor to get their trans care taken care of, whatever that involves, or they're even considering getting their what would you call it? Outward-facing sexual identity, I don't know, adjusted medically. Well, they have access to doctors, don't they? So they probably would have had that autism noticed earlier, wouldn't they? And they probably would have had it attended to, and they probably are an outlier. In fact, they are probably more representative of the population, generally speaking. Just watch out for stuff like that. Person seeks medical care for X and they have a higher rate of Y. Well, you see, X causes Y. Well, maybe in a country that charges an arm and a leg, sometimes literally, to deal with medical problems, maybe there's just more people who are able to seek treatment for one thing who are also getting found to have another because they can afford to seek treatment in the first place. If you were to just do your assessment of people's health based off that reasoning, you'd think, "Oh my God, poor people are the healthiest people on the planet. We should all get rid of our money for the sake of our lives because they never break their bones. They never have cancerous lumps. The only cancer they get, actually, it turns out, is like the super aggressive kind that is you can tell it's killing you. They don't get the little stuff that's preventable early on." That would be the conclusion you'd reach if you only follow that reasoning. But all right, let's see what Suris has to say about it.
Community that affirms them. 20 years ago, they'd just be punk or emo. Yeah, it's almost like as certain things are more socially accepted, more people feel okay coming out of the closet. Also, yes, the rates of people who are trans is higher in people who have these signs that we would associate with autism. That does not magically mean that those people are not trans. It's almost as if gender being a largely social construct and autism being something that affects the way that you navigate the world socially in many cases, it's almost as if you would expect that, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, also a really good point about the correlation, especially with gender being, it's a social construct. By the way, I have some opinions on that I'm going to share in the sake of just changing the way we think about this, that I think should be the way right-wingers talk about this stuff. And we'll do that after we finish out this clip. But yeah, that's a good point from Suris. Yeah, there can be correlation. I do think they're missing the main point, though, which is that the rate of everything that can be found medically will be higher amongst people who have transitioned, because people who have transitioned can afford health care. They can afford health care that's not necessary to your immediate survival, even if it's necessary to your long-term survival, because we live in a society where you just have to look like the gender that you feel, or you might put a gun in your mouth. But the rate of everything will be higher, simply because these people can afford health care. And by the way, there's plenty of trans people that can't afford health care, and they got to just make do with a dress and a damn good razor.
It doesn't negate the individual experiences of anybody who's trans. Also, there's plenty of people who are neurotypical and trans. Those are the types of comments on this article. It's those types of comments that make me go, oh, these are the types of people that this is being written for. So they'd be punk or emo because punk and emos are queer-friendly communities? Funny that. Now, there is a case. I do want to see what happens with this, because there is a case here that maybe some of the stuff in the actual article is technically considered libel. Who knows? We'll see. What I am happy about is that despite Twitter being a terrible fucking mess of a platform, I am happy that Alex did hop on Twitter in order to tell their version of the story, their story, that was supposed to be something that they would have consent in talking about, even if they didn't. Even if they didn't in the original version of the story that the mom tried to push through. So, we'll see what develops with this. But for the time being, this is where we throw it back to you guys. Let me know how you feel in the comment section below, and hopefully we can all work to make a better world for people like Alex. As always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.
Good Lord. So, takeaways. Bari Weiss, this is going to shock you. Dishonest human being. We knew this. But it's good to look at what the dishonest folks are writing occasionally so we can know who the people that we can sway are seeing. So we can know what the people who are swayable are reading. Understanding the disinformation, so we know what information we need to gather and have at the ready. But with most of this, it's just pausing and thinking about what they're doing rhetorically. You don't need to have facts and statistics memorized just to address how wild this is. Real simple. When the kid responded, they chose to ignore what the kid had to say. Do you think they would have chosen to ignore what the kid had to say if they would have been like, yeah, my mom's right, and let me give you a quote about how much I've suffered from this? That would be in the article. They weren't interested, however, in reporting reality. They were interested in reporting some nonsense, which is what they're always interested in because they're dishonest people. And when you talk about this, when you talk about it with MAGA folks, or if you talk about it with, I have a family member, for example, who's somewhat iffy on the trans stuff until we talk about it for 2-3 minutes, and then they're voting and thinking the way that we would want. But they just keep getting hit with these articles that are saying, oh, but it's dangerous. Oh, but it's dangerous. And it's just nonsense. So just bring up the fact that they are getting their information from unreliable people. You can show this as an example and simply ask the question, now this other piece of information that you got, what are the odds that it was also unreliable? Have you been listening to anything else Bari Weiss had to say? Remember, you don't have to disprove everything these people ever wrote. Grab one article. Get your Bari Weiss file out. Grab this. Put up your notes there. Notes are just one line. It was an anti-trans article that interviewed the mom. The Bari Weiss was sharing it around, and the child asked to have their opinion put in and was denied. Now you have, for whenever somebody shows you a Bari Weiss piece, you can say, okay, this is who Bari Weiss is. Before we look at this piece, is it going to look like this other thing would have looked if we didn't put in the work to see what the kid had to say? With Matt Walsh, let's bring up that Joe Rogan clip where he's corrected by Rogan, God help us, about the number of people who had surgeries. He said it was millions. It turns out it was within the thousands. Wild. What's my right-wing take? This is how we should be debating this. These are the conversations we should be having. I am so left-wing that I genuinely believe that gender is a construct. And you know what? I'm actually I'm not against anything, but I'm hesitant to recommend surgery for anyone because gender is a construct. And surgery, no matter how safe you get, is a little bit dangerous. And I think if we're at a place where people, what we're talking about essentially is cosmetic surgery. Yes, there's hormones and all that, but it's mostly cosmetic surgery. And if we're at a place where you need cosmetic surgery to feel like the gender you are, and this is going to be something that the left is now talking about in 2 decades. We're not there yet. It's not a conversation worth having right now. I'm just telling you the kind of debates we could be having if we lived in a sane world. If we're at a place where you need to have cosmetic surgery to feel like the gender you are, then our failure is not that this person doesn't have enough access to this surgery. Our real failure is that we make too much hay over gender. I don't know why we can't have people with all the male parts simply looking and acting very feminine and not worrying about what their specific identifying blah, blah, blah is. But if surgery makes you happy, if a tummy tuck or an anti-wrinkle whatever makes you happy, F it, do it. It's America. Do what makes you happy. I just don't like how much our view of gender, I guess, is based on aesthetics. That's not an argument against getting these surgeries. It's simply an argument against how much of a big deal we make about gender for everybody to begin with. And I look forward to being in America where people are having those kinds of debates. Because those are debates that are based in reality. Whether you agree with that specific outlook or not, at least it's based in reality. There's nobody having to like skew facts and stories to try to change that into something that will support their side. Tamara Chance says, count me as anti-fascist. Hell yeah, Tamara Chance. Wireless Mike says, I learned everything I know about doing the news from Anchorman. Here's the thing, though. Not entirely wrong. In fact, Anchorman Anchorman stars Will Ferrell playing a character based off Mort Krim, who is, you might recognize him from actually being in Detroiters. Mort Krim was from Local 4, WDIV, my old stomping grounds. You better believe I love me some Anchorman, and it's actually a pretty good parody of what the news is actually like, including the bizarre rivalries. Mars Falcon, Scotchy. Bari Weiss did editing for the Wall Street Journal, God help me, and New York Times, Christ Jesus. I never really knew of her until she wrote that piece on the intellectual dark web claiming Dave Rubin was a thought whiz. Yeah. Wicked Foxy Dragon says, what did I miss? Not much. We were teasing about how dishonest Bari Weiss is. I think that's a segment. What do you guys think?